Okay, simplifying imaginary number uh, I. So this video is not going to explain how it came about, how and where we use it. It ends up getting used in a lot of situations, largely to do with vectors and other things. However, this video is just for prep purposes. If you get a test question, here's kind of just a quick review. Square root of -1 is equal to that imaginary I. But what comes in handy is powers of I, and you only have to remember four things. That I to the first power is just I, just like 2 to the first is 2, I to the first is I. Well, I squared, well, think about this. If we square the square root of -1, so is the -1 comes out. So I squared is -1. Well, I'm going to put this back in here. I cubed. Well, if I squared is -1 and I to the first, so I to the first is I, but I cubed or I squared is -1. If you multiply those two together, you get I cubed. I to the first times I squared. Remember, when you multiply powers of the same base, you add the exponents. So if we take the two previous numbers, I to the first times I squared, we get I cubed. So I times -1 is -I. And then I to the fourth, well, I to the fourth is I squared. So if we look at I squared, -1, -1 squared is +1. Okay, the reason these four things are important. So I've seen on a test before, simplify I to the 101st power. Well, I to the 101st is I to the 100th times I to the first. And the reason I chose 100, it's divisible by 4. So I to the 100 is just 1. I to the first is I. 1 times I is I. So I to the 101st is just I. Let's do that in a different way. Let's do I to the 99. Well, if we know that I to the 100 is divisible by 4, 1 less than 4 is 3. So I to the 99 is going to be -I. You could do that with any of them. So I say to the 7th. Well, that's the same as I to the 4th times I cubed. And then hopefully you just wrote this down on a scratch piece of paper. Memorize this. And then before you go into, as soon as you get into a time test, write those 4 facts down. And then look at I to the 4th is 1. I cubed is -I. So I to the 7th is -I. All right, that's it for this one. Simplifying the imaginary I.